Beloved chosen one, listen, heaven pauses for you now. Everything that has led you here, every sleepless night, every silent battle, every unanswered prayer, has brought you to this very threshold. You have been tested, refined, and watched. The angels have leaned close. The heavens have held their breath. And even the darkness has waited to see which master you would serve. You stand in the moment of reckoning, the moment that decides not just your next step, but your eternal direction. You are not ordinary. You are marked. From the day you were born, something in you disturbed the atmosphere. You were never meant to blend in. Every trial was a preparation. Every delay, a refining. Every rejection, a redirection. You wondered why others seemed to walk easily while your path twisted through fire and shadow. But now, you see, you were being trained for a higher loyalty. Heaven has invested too much in you for you to sell your soul to comfort. Look around you. The world is noisy, filled with endless choices that promise freedom but deliver chains. But you, chosen one, you can feel it in your bones, that quiet urgency, the tug in your spirit, the knowing that the time for wavering is over. The heavens are calling for a decision. Will you serve the one who called you by name, or the one who flatters you into silence? The fire of decision burns now, and neutrality is no longer safe ground. You may think your testing was punishment, but it was proof. You've been pressed to expose what could not be crushed. You've been wounded to awaken what could not die. Your scars are the handwriting of heaven, reminding you that you survived everything meant to destroy you because you are not owned by the darkness. Every time you rose again, unseen hands lifted you. Every time you almost gave up, grace whispered, "Not yet." That whisper was divine, and it was never random. Listen carefully now. This is not coincidence. This message finds you at the exact second heaven intended. There are no algorithms here, only divine alignment. You are hearing this because your spirit has reached its appointed hour. The heavens are calling for your allegiance. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot love both light and shadow. The time for partial obedience is over. The kingdom watches to see which mark you will bear, the mark of surrender or the mark of compromise. The ancient words recorded in the book of Joshua, chapter 24, verse 15, declare, "Choose this day whom you will serve." This is not a suggestion, it is a summons. Heaven stands on one side, hell on the other, and your choice determines your master. The decision is not made in words alone, it is made in action, in discipline, in obedience when no one else is watching. You have felt the pull of both kingdoms. Now the King himself calls you to stand under his banner. Your spirit knows this truth. You feel it rising like thunder under your skin, the moment where destiny demands response. The old self trembles because it senses the end of its reign. The chains of fear begin to rattle because they know freedom is near. You've tasted the emptiness of sin and the ache of separation. But you've also glimpsed the beauty of light. That glimpse was enough. You've seen too much to turn back now. You've heard the call. And once the call comes, silence is no longer an option. Heaven does not beg, it invites. Yet, the invitation carries the weight of eternity. The Father's eyes are on you. The Son intercedes for you, and the Spirit stirs within you. This is the hour to choose your master. The world will not understand your surrender, but it will feel your transformation. When you finally bow to the right king, even your silence will carry authority. Even your presence will shift rooms. Even your tears will water revival. You are not choosing religion, you are choosing reign, dominion, and eternal belonging. Do not delay. Every delay strengthens the enemy's hold. Every compromise tightens invisible cords around your spirit. But the moment you decide, those cords snap. The moment you say, "Yes, Lord," power flows. Heaven records your decision in ink that never fades. The kingdom celebrates every soul that turns fully toward the light. You are not too late. And you are not too far gone. The test was never meant to break you. It was meant to reveal your allegiance. Now, take a breath. Feel the stillness before the storm of transformation. Heaven has been waiting for this sound, the sound of your surrender. When you choose your master, everything else aligns. Confusion dissolves. Fear retreats. Identity becomes clear. The voice of purpose grows louder than the noise of doubt. This is the moment when everything begins again. You will no longer wander between two opinions. You will no longer chase peace from broken places. You will no longer bow to things that promise power but drain your soul. Stand firm. Chosen one. Lift your head. You were not created to bow to fear or vanity. You were created to reign in light. This message does not come to condemn you, but to awaken you. Heaven sees you. Still standing. Still reaching. You have endured the test. And now comes the choice. You have walked through shadow to stand in this light. So now decide. The Master of Light is calling your name. Say yes, and step into the destiny that has been waiting since before time began. If this word resonates in your spirit, pause and do one thing right now. Declare your choice publicly. Like this message. Share it. And comment the number 77 below as a prophetic act of agreement with heaven. Let that number be your declaration. I choose my master. And if you haven't already, subscribe so you never miss a word that strengthens your walk. Heaven is writing your story even now. And this decision marks a new chapter of power, peace, and purpose. You've wondered why your path has been heavier than most, why your prayers sometimes seem to echo back in silence, why the doors you knocked on never opened the way you hoped. But chosen one, what if all that pain was not punishment, but preparation? What if your suffering was never random, but strategic? Every delay, every betrayal, every tear you cried in the dark was heaven's training ground. You were being forged, not forgotten. The silence was not absence, it was instruction. There were moments when you begged God for relief, yet none came. Instead, the pressure increased. You were pushed, stretched, stripped, and left standing in what felt like spiritual ruins. But those ruins were sacred. They were the proving ground of your destiny. The very weight that threatened to break you was building your strength. While others saw loss, heaven saw growth. You were not losing, you were being refined. You were not buried, you were being planted for resurrection. Think back to the nights you said, "I can't do this anymore." You felt unseen, unheard, perhaps even unloved. Yet, even in your silence, God was moving. He hid you because He was shaping you. He allowed you to be misunderstood so that you would stop seeking validation from broken people. You were not rejected, you were redirected. Every no you heard was God's shield against lesser things. You thought he was withholding blessing, but he was actually protecting destiny. You were being trained for something holy, something that required scars. There's a difference between being attacked and being tested. The enemy attacks to destroy you. God tests to reveal you. The test is not for his knowledge. He already knows your strength. It's for your awareness, so that you will see what he placed inside you long before the storm began. Every disappointment forced you to depend on him. Every closed door taught you to listen. Every heartbreak exposed your idols and brought your heart back to the altar. It hurt, yes, but it healed you, too. You see, the anointing cannot rest on the untested. The crown is too heavy for the unbroken. Before a diamond shines, it must endure pressure. Before a sword gleams, it must pass through fire. So it is with your spirit. The trials were never meant to kill you. They were meant to make you unshakable. You have been chosen for endurance, built for impact. And now that you have survived what should have destroyed you, heaven declares you are ready for revelation. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 66, verse 10, "For you, O God, have tested us, you have refined us as silver is refined." Do you see it now? The refining was never cruelty, it was care. God allowed the fire to touch you, only to burn away the things that could not go with you into your next season. Your tears were not wasted. They washed away what didn't belong. The nights you felt abandoned were actually nights of hidden instruction. Every time you broke, heaven rewrote a part of your heart to mirror his chosen one. Even the suffering was prophetic. You cried for deliverance, and God sent fire not to consume you, but to cleanse you. The ache in your spirit was heaven's reminder that you were built for more than ordinary survival. You were being taught to live from the inside out, to depend not on circumstance, but on covenant. The pain you carried wasn't proof of his absence. It was proof that he trusted you with something sacred, the process. He only refines what he intends to use greatly. There is something holy about being pressed beyond comfort. When everything familiar falls away, when the applause stops, and when you stand alone with nothing but faith, that's when revelation begins. The wilderness strips away false strength so that true strength can emerge. It teaches you that God is enough. It prepares you to hear him in the silence, to see him in the storm, to trust him when the outcome makes no sense. And when the refining ends, what remains is pure, unshakable faith. Do not despise your scars. They are evidence that you endured the flame and lived to tell of it. They are your testimony, your divine credentials. The pain carved wisdom into you that no book could teach. It taught you compassion, discernment, endurance, and reverence. The suffering was not wasted. It built the foundation for your authority. You can now walk into rooms with quiet power, because you know what it costs to carry light through darkness. You've earned your spiritual armor. So stand tall, chosen one. Do not look back with bitterness at the years that tested you. They were sacred years, years that proved heaven's investment in you. You are stronger now, wiser now, and purer in heart. The fire didn't steal from you. It separated what was temporary from what was eternal. The breaking was the making. The tears were the training. The pain was the prophecy. And now that you've endured the refining, your soul glows with quiet authority. Heaven smiles upon your endurance. for you have passed the test and you are still standing. There were moments, chosen one, when the noise of the world became so loud that you almost forgot the sound of your own soul. The voices of doubt, distraction, and deception surrounded you like a storm, each demanding your attention. You tried to listen for God, but his whisper seemed faint, too gentle to compete with the chaos around you. Yet now, as everything begins to quiet, you realize that heaven never stopped speaking. The divine voice wasn't missing, it was just waiting for the noise in you to die down. You see, God rarely shouts. He often speaks in silence, in stillness, in the pauses between your panic. The reason the world kept pulling you into confusion is because the enemy knows that a focused mind is dangerous. So he filled your days with noise, endless scrolling, constant comparison, people's opinions dressed as truth. But you were never meant to follow the crowd. You were meant to hear the whisper that separates the chosen from the distracted. The wilderness was not a punishment, it was a sanctuary where heaven could speak without interruption. The Spirit has been calling your name in ways you might not have noticed. Through the dreams that linger when you wake, through the tears that appear without reason, through the strange peace that falls when everything around you breaks. These were not coincidences, they were divine signals. Heaven has been orchestrating moments just like this, moments when you are still enough to hear the sacred frequency that cuts through the noise. You were made to hear the voice that calls stars by name, the same voice that now calls yours, as was spoken in the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 3. The voice of one crying in the wilderness, "Prepare the way of the Lord." That cry is not only ancient, it is alive in you. You are the wilderness the voice speaks through now. Every barren place in your life becomes an altar where the divine word can echo. The wilderness seasons taught you to depend on sound instead of sight. You learned to recognize his tone, his rhythm, his direction. That recognition is your power. It's how the chosen discern the difference between opportunity and trap, between calling and distraction. When heaven speaks, it rarely confirms your comfort. It confronts your compromise. The voice of God doesn't flatter, it transforms. It calls you away from the crowd, away from distraction, into the lonely road of obedience. You've felt that pull before. That sacred discomfort that comes when God is asking you to rise higher. You may not have understood it then, but now you do. It wasn't loss, it was calling. It wasn't isolation, it was alignment. He was separating you from noise so you could recognize his tone. And when you finally hear him, everything changes. Confusion loses its grip. You stop chasing approval because you already know you are seen. You stop fearing silence because you realize silence is sacred space. The voice that spoke light into existence begins to guide you through darkness. You no longer need to force doors open. You follow the sound of divine instruction. Every command becomes an invitation to deeper intimacy. Every whisper becomes a compass. The voice of the Lord becomes your anchor in the chaos of the world. Some people will not understand the peace that follows your obedience. They will think you've become distant, withdrawn, but you'll know better. You're not isolating, you're incubating. You're not avoiding the world, you're attuning to heaven. When the world screams for attention, you now seek alignment. You've learned that true power is not in noise, but in knowing. And that knowing comes only from hearing the one who called you chosen long before anyone else believed in you. The same God who spoke to Moses from a burning bush now speaks to you through burning conviction. The same God who whispered to Samuel in the night now whispers to you through restlessness. Do not dismiss that stirring inside you. It is not anxiety, it is awakening. Heaven is tuning your spirit to its frequency again. The more you listen, the more clearly you will know when to move, when to wait, and when to speak. The chosen do not move by impulse, they move by instruction. So now, take this moment and listen, not to the world, not to the fear, but to that quiet, unmistakable pull inside your chest. It's not your imagination, it's divine direction. Let that voice lead you out of confusion and into clarity. You are hearing not just a message, but a movement. The voice in the wilderness is preparing something inside you, something holy, something unstoppable. Now, if you feel that tug in your heart right now, respond in a simple act of faith. Comment, "I hear you." Say it as your declaration that you choose to listen, that you will no longer let noise drown your purpose. Write it, not for the algorithm, but for the altar of your own obedience. When you declare, "I hear you," heaven records your response, and the same voice that called prophets and kings will begin to guide your next steps with supernatural precision. The deceiver has always worn masks. Chosen one, his voice never comes dressed in darkness, it comes wrapped in light. He doesn't whisper, "Follow me into destruction." No, he says, "Follow your heart." He doesn't promise ruin, he promises freedom without sacrifice, pleasure without consequence, and glory without God. But his promises are poisoned. The false master does not come as the enemy, he comes as counterfeit comfort. And every soul that cannot discern his disguise risks surrendering to a shadow, thinking it has found salvation. You've seen his work before. He shows up as the easy way out, the relationship that feeds the flesh but starves the spirit, the opportunity that flatters your ego but drains your purpose. He mimics divine timing with dangerous precision, offering shortcuts that look like blessings but lead to bondage. He tells you, you can have it all now, but never tells you the cost. The false master always trades eternity for immediacy. His currency is impatience, and his victims are those who crave relief more than revelation. He knows how to sound like light. That is why discernment is your greatest weapon. You cannot fight deception with emotion, you fight it with truth. Your feelings may shift like waves, but truth stands like rock. The false master wants you to follow emotion, because emotion blinds, while truth reveals. You were never meant to be led by what feels right. You were meant to be led by what is right. That's why your testing was so long and painful. It trained you to recognize the difference between imitation and authenticity. You were born with spiritual sight, and that sight has been sharpened by suffering. Every lie you fell for in the past became a lesson in discernment. You now recognize the energy of deception, the way it feels heavy, rushed, urgent, almost holy but hollow. Heaven has trained your senses to detect false light. So, when the deceiver comes smiling, you will not bow this time. When he tempts you with comfort, you will see the cost behind the curtain. The veil has been lifted. The time of confusion is over. As the apostle reminds us in his second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 11, verse 14, "For Satan himself transforms himself into an angel of light." These words are not ancient history, they are a current warning. The false master knows how to dress sin in silk. He can twist scripture, mimic miracles, and quote truth without believing it. But what he cannot reproduce is holiness. Holiness carries weight that imitation cannot sustain. That is why you must guard your heart more than ever. Deception cannot enter without invitation. Your loyalty will be tested not by open evil, but by subtle compromise. The enemy won't ask you to renounce God. He'll only ask you to delay obedience. He'll whisper, "Just one more time. Just this once. You can repent later." But every small surrender builds a chain. That's how he traps chosen souls, not with force, but with persuasion. His lies are gentle enough to comfort you into complacency. That's why you must stay awake. The battle now is not external, it's internal. It's not about avoiding sin, but about refusing the slow drift away from surrender. The false master offers a counterfeit version of everything: holy lust instead of love, noise instead of purpose, distraction instead of peace, recognition instead of reward. But you, chosen one, were not made for imitation. The truth in you burns too brightly to be seduced by glitter. You've tasted the emptiness of false promises before. You won't be fooled again. The spirit within you will sound the alarm the moment something unholy dresses as divine. You will know by the weight it carries. Truth brings freedom. Deception brings fog. So be alert. Your discernment is sacred. Protect it. When confusion rises, step back and ask, does this align with the voice I've learned to trust? If peace departs, do not proceed. If light dims, do not move. The false master cannot stand the consistency of obedience. Every time you choose to wait on God instead of chasing illusion, his influence weakens. Every time you speak truth when lies would be easier, his grip loosens. You are learning to walk not by sight, but by revelation, and revelation never bows to imitation. You are awakening, and the false master knows it. His final disguise will fail because you've already seen his pattern. You've been tested by truth, purified by loss, and now equipped with holy discernment. You will not be deceived again. When others fall for charm, you will wait for confirmation. When others chase applause, you will pursue authenticity. The counterfeit light fades quickly, but the true light within you burns eternal. And that light, chosen one, will always expose every mask that dares to stand before it. There are two hands stretched out before you now. Chosen one, one draped in gold, the other marked with scars. Both call your name. One promises you the world if you will only bow for a moment. The other promises eternity if you will carry your cross for a lifetime. One offers the crown without the cost. The other offers glory through surrender. Between these hands hangs the destiny of your soul. The time has come to decide whether you will wear a crown or drag a chain. You felt both before: the glittering weight of worldly success and the invisible pull of divine calling. The crown of the world sparkles, but it cuts deep. Its jewels are sharp with pride, and its gold is heavy with fear. The chain of sin, though familiar, begins to rust the longer you wear it. And then there is the true crown, the one forged in surrender, polished in patience, and placed upon those who refuse to bow to darkness. This crown does not glitter, it glows. It carries peace instead of pressure, eternity instead of emptiness. The world will try to sell you its treasures like a merchant in a crowded market. It will wave fame before your eyes, whisper comfort into your ears, and offer approval in exchange for silence. But you cannot trade the eternal for the temporary. You were not designed to be a consumer of vanity. You were designed to be a vessel of light. The false master deals in things that fade. Your true master deals in things that last forever. Integrity, faithfulness, purity, peace. The question is not what you want, it's who you belong to. As the apostle wrote in the book of Romans, chapter 6, verse 16, you are slaves of the one you obey. It is not merely your words that declare your allegiance, but your obedience. Every action is a seed, every choice is a covenant. What you obey today shapes the master you serve tomorrow. You cannot walk in the light while flirting with shadows. You cannot wear the crown of the king while entertaining the chains of compromise. Your life must align with your loyalty. Look at your journey. Chosen one, you have walked through valleys and climbed unseen mountains. Every step was shaping your heart for this moment of surrender. The world wants you to believe you are your own master. But even freedom has a throne. Something will always rule you, either fear or faith, ego or obedience, self or spirit. The wise do not deny this truth. They simply choose their ruler wisely. The chains of sin may look like silver, but they corrode the soul. The yoke of Christ may look heavy, but it carries peace within its weight. When you choose your master, you are not losing, you are exchanging lesser crowns for eternal glory. You are laying down the heavy gold of pride and receiving the light of divine purpose. You are trading applause for anointing, comfort for calling, noise for peace. The exchange is costly, but every cost becomes a seed of reward. You've spent enough seasons renting your identity to temporary masters. Now it's time to sign your name to the Eternal One. If this message is stirring your heart, take a moment and let it sink in. Imagine your spirit standing before those two hands again. Feel the scarred one reaching not to take, but to give. It doesn't promise ease, but it promises truth. That hand has never failed you. Every time you fell, it reached for you. Every time you doubted, it waited. The gold hand glitters, but it hides a chain. The scarred hand bleeds, but it breaks every chain it touches. You already know which one is yours. And now, chosen one, as you walk this narrow path, remember, you are not alone. This message, this moment, this journey is sustained not by crowds, but by covenant. Every act of faith keeps the flame alive. If these words have reached your soul, if you feel the presence of truth stirring in your chest, then let your response be a gentle ripple of gratitude, like a candle lighting another. Your small act keeps the fire moving through others who need it most. If your spirit leads, share this message so another weary soul may find their way back to light. Like it as a mark of agreement, a symbolic nod to heaven that says, I choose my crown. Subscribe so that the next word of life finds you when you need it most. And if your heart feels compelled to donate, let it be more than a transaction, let it be a seed. You are not funding a screen. You are fueling a sanctuary where words like these reach the broken and the brave. Your gift, no matter the size, becomes part of the chain-breaking echo heaven uses to reach others like you. Every crown begins with surrender. Every movement begins with a moment. And every revival begins with one willing heart. You have heard. You have endured. And now you are choosing. Heaven sees it. Heaven marks it. and heaven will honor it. The chain is broken. The crown awaits. Everything around you seems to have paused, doesn't it? Chosen one, the conversations have slowed. The noise of the world has dimmed, and you can almost feel time itself holding its breath. This isn't coincidence. This is heaven pressing pause, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Life has been running at full speed, and suddenly, everything stops. That stillness you feel isn't emptiness, it's divine focus. The world calls it delay, but heaven calls it a holy interruption. You may think nothing is happening, but everything is. When heaven stops your movement, it's because something inside you must shift before you step forward again. God doesn't pause your life to frustrate you. He pauses it to refine your perspective. You've been walking, but not always seeing. You've been building, but not always listening. So heaven silences the background noise until the only voice left is His. It's not punishment, it's mercy, disguised as stillness. You've been asking, why now? Why me? Why can't things just flow again? And heaven responds, because I need you to see what motion kept you from noticing. You were praying for open doors, but God was watching your foundation. You wanted progress, He wanted alignment. Sometimes the greatest acceleration comes through stillness, in quiet. Your roots dig deeper. In waiting, your discernment sharpens. In pause, your obedience matures. You are not being delayed, you are being developed. The Spirit spoke through the book of Psalms, chapter 46, verse 10, declaring, "Be still, and know that I am God." This command is not about inactivity, it's about intimacy. Be still means let go of control. Know that I am God means trust that I am working while you wait. In the pause, heaven is proving that the outcome doesn't depend on your striving, it depends on His sovereignty. You don't need to push, you need to perceive. You don't need to rush, you need to rest. The stillness is sacred ground where revelation grows. Imagine a musician tuning an instrument before a concert. To the untrained ear, it sounds like delay, like nothing is happening. But in truth, everything depends on that moment of tuning. The slightest misalignment would ruin the entire song. That's what heaven is doing in your soul right now. The conductor is adjusting your strings, your emotions, your priorities, your perspective, so that when the next movement begins, your life will play in perfect harmony with His plan. It's in these moments of pause that you begin to see who truly reigns. When the world stops applauding, when progress halts, when prayers seem unanswered, you find out who your master is. Do you trust the one who led you into this silence, or do you start searching for another source of noise to fill it? The true master is revealed in the stillness. He does not need chaos to prove His power. His authority is seen in the peace that remains when everything else stops. You've been walking through divine stillness, but it's not a dead end, it's a divine setup. The pause is preparing you for precision. Every plan that looked delayed is only being aligned with perfect timing. You are not behind schedule. You are right where heaven wants you. God is removing distractions that would have destroyed you later. He's repositioning people, reordering circumstances, and resetting your heart. It may feel quiet, but it's not empty. It's pregnant with purpose. Something holy is forming in the silence. So don't resist the pause. Don't curse what was meant to cleanse. When you stop striving, the Spirit starts speaking. When you stop controlling, peace starts flowing. When you finally surrender, doors begin to move on, hinges you never touched. The pause isn't the absence of progress, it's the birthplace of revelation. You're not stuck, you're being still so heaven can move for you. Soon, this pause will break. The silence will give way to sound. The light you thought had dimmed will burst brighter than before. But before that moment arrives, let the stillness finish its work. Let it teach you trust. Let it strengthen your hearing. Let it train your heart to recognize peace as proof of God's presence. The stillness is not a waiting room, it's a war room where heaven prepares you for victory. Chosen one. Heaven is watching your posture in this pause. Don't waste the stillness with frustration, fill it with faith. Lift your hands, not in impatience, but in surrender. Whisper, I trust you, until your heart believes it. The one who learns to rest in the pause will never panic in the battle. And now, as a prophetic act, let your spirit respond to this word. Comment the number 333 below, not as a superstition, but as a symbol of divine alignment. 3 for the Father, 3 for the Son, 3 for the Spirit, perfect unity in motion, even when life stands still. Let that number be your declaration that you will trust God's timing. Even when you cannot trace His hand, heaven sees your faith in stillness, and it will reward your surrender. Fire has always been the language of transformation. Chosen one. It purifies what it touches, exposes what it consumes, and reveals what it leaves behind. You have felt that fire. It came in the form of disappointment, betrayal, and loss. It was not random, it was refinement. You have walked through flames that others couldn't have survived, yet here you stand stronger, clearer, and far more dangerous to darkness than before. The fire that was meant to destroy you became the very thing that defined you. At first, you thought it was punishment. The heat was unbearable, the pain unexplainable. Everything you thought was stable began to melt away. You cried out for rescue, but heaven stayed silent. What you didn't know then was that rescue would have ruined the process. If God had pulled you out too soon, the impurities would have remained. So He let the fire finish its work, not to destroy you, but to reveal the gold hidden beneath the ashes. Every chosen soul must pass through this furnace before they are trusted with the flame of purpose. The refining fire doesn't ask for permission, it simply arrives. It burns away false identities, weak attachments, and shallow faith. You prayed for strength, and heaven answered with fire. You prayed for clarity, and God burned away the fog. You prayed for purity, and He exposed everything that polluted your heart. The fire never comes to harm, it comes to heal through heat. It doesn't destroy your value, it reveals it. Just as gold cannot prove its worth until it faces the flame, your spirit could not reveal its strength until it endured the trial. Think of how many times you thought you were finished when you lost what you thought you couldn't live without. When people walked away, when everything you trusted crumbled, you thought it was over. But it was only the fire consuming what couldn't follow you into your next chapter. God was not taking from you, He was freeing you. The fire didn't come to take your life, it came to take what was limiting your life. You were never losing, you were being refined. You've been told to fear the fire, but the truth is, the chosen are forged in it. The fire is holy, it doesn't chase you, it chooses you. It seeks the ones who carry eternal assignments. You were not called to live untested, because the untested cannot carry power. When you felt like you were breaking, heaven was watching the impurities rise to the surface. That bitterness, that fear, that pride, all of it surfaced in the heat so it could be skimmed away. Every tear you cried was part of that purification. You were being remade from the inside out. We are reminded in the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 3, "He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver." Notice, it says he will sit. That means God doesn't leave while the fire burns. The refiner stays close, eyes fixed on you, watching the process with perfect care. He never turns away. He never walks off. He knows exactly how much heat to apply and when to remove it. He watches until he can see his reflection in you. That's when the refining is complete. The moment you start reflecting his image more than your pain, you know the process has worked. So many people run from the fire, seeking comfort instead of cleansing. But you, chosen one, you stayed. You endured. You let the heat transform you. You allowed heaven to strip away what no longer belonged, even when it hurt. That's why your faith carries weight now. It's not borrowed from sermons or songs, it's carved from scars. You don't just believe God is faithful, you know it. Because you've seen him keep you alive in flames that should have ended you. And that fire, it hasn't gone out. It burns quietly now, within you, as conviction and discernment. The same heat that once broke you now fuels your purpose. You've learned to respect it, to let it teach you. You understand that when the fire returns, it's not rejection, it's renewal. You no longer panic when things fall apart. You recognize the sound of transformation. You understand that burning seasons often precede breakthroughs, what others call endings. You now recognize as refinements. Chosen one, this is why your glow is different. It's not surface-level shine, it's inner radiance. People see peace in you and don't understand how you kept it through the chaos. They see your strength but don't realize it was born from smoke and ashes. You are walking evidence that the fire works. You have emerged not as who you were, but as who you were meant to be. The dross is gone, the gold remains. Do not despise the flames that visit again. They are not your enemy, they are your elevation. Every new level requires new purity, and purity is born in pressure. The refiner's eyes are still on you, and his hands are steady. The fire that once terrified you will one day testify through you. And when others see the glow on your life, they will not see the scars first. They will see the reflection of the one who sat beside you in the fire and never left. The fiercest war you will ever fight, chosen one, is not the one around you, it is the one within you. The battle between light and shadow does not rage in the skies, but in your soul. It is a quiet war, one fought in your thoughts, your habits, your choices, every day. Two masters call your name. One leads you towards surrender. The other lures you towards self. Both offer peace, but only one delivers it. You've felt this battle before, haven't you? That tug of war between what you know is right and what your flesh craves. You've promised to change, only to find yourself pulled back into patterns that drain your spirit. You've said, "I'll do better tomorrow." Yet tomorrow comes and the struggle remains. You wonder if something's wrong with you, if maybe you're too weak or too flawed to win. But hear this truth: your struggle doesn't disqualify you, it identifies you. The war within you is proof of your divine calling. The world feels comfortable in compromise, but you feel the weight of conviction. That discomfort is sacred. It's the spirit warring against the flesh, reminding you that you were never meant to live halfway. The enemy doesn't need to possess a divided heart. He only needs to distract it. But heaven is calling you to wholeness. The spirit doesn't want part of you. He wants the entire temple. That's why this inner conflict won't stop. It's not punishment. It's purification. You may not see it, but every decision you make tips the scales of eternity. Each time you forgive instead of retaliate, light wins. Each time you resist temptation, even in secret, heaven records victory. You are not failing because you struggle. You are growing stronger because you fight. Weakness would surrender. Strength wrestles. The war inside you proves that you have not given up. It's not peace that defines you. It's persistence. The true mark of a warrior is not the absence of wounds, but the refusal to retreat. As it is written in the book of Galatians, chapter 5, verse 17, "For the flesh desires what is contrary to the spirit, and the spirit what is contrary to the flesh." This is the battlefield within the spirit, pulling you toward purpose, while the flesh pulls you toward pleasure. They cannot coexist peacefully. So you must choose daily which one will lead. The spirit will never force you, he invites. The flesh will never ask permission, it demands. One brings freedom through discipline. The other brings bondage through indulgence. The question is not which one speaks louder, it's which one you obey. Many people lose this war not because they are weak, but because they try to fight it alone. The flesh feeds on secrecy, on unspoken guilt, on hidden shame, but the spirit thrives in the light. The moment you expose your weakness to truth, its power begins to break. The darkness within you is terrified of being seen, because once it's seen, it can no longer control you. Confession is not humiliation, it's liberation. You are not your mistakes, you are the battleground of mercy and might. When you look back, you'll realize that the hardest fights were not against others, they were against yourself. Every time you overcame pride, fear, or lust, heaven witnessed victory. Every time you chose patience when you wanted revenge, you reclaimed ground stolen by darkness. The war within is not meant to destroy you, it's meant to train you. Each battle refines your obedience and deepens your dependence. The flesh promises quick relief, the spirit promises lasting peace. The flesh seeks control, the spirit seeks surrender. The flesh wants to feel good, the spirit wants to become good. This tension won't vanish, but it can be mastered. The more you feed your spirit through prayer, truth, and stillness, the quieter the flesh becomes. The more you entertain distraction, the louder the war grows. Peace is not the absence of conflict, it's the alignment of loyalty. You may feel exhausted by the battle, but know this, the war within you will end in victory if you don't abandon the fight. The spirit inside you has already overcome what the flesh fears. You are not fighting to win, you are fighting to remember you've already won. The cross secured the outcome, your obedience enforces it. Every time you choose light, you remind hell it has already lost. So, chosen one, stand firm in this truth. The war inside you is not a sign of failure, but of formation. You are being shaped for dominion. The struggle is holy, the pressure divine. When the battle feels endless, remember, peace is coming. Not because the war will stop, but because your spirit will reign. And when it does, you will stand not as a divided soldier, but as a crowned conqueror, whole and unwavering, mastered only by the one who made you free. There comes a moment, chosen one, when all striving must stop, not because you have failed, but because heaven is waiting for your surrender. You've tried to fix, to prove, to carry everything on your own shoulders. You've prayed for signs, fought invisible wars, and wrestled with choices that tore your peace apart. Yet the question has never been about strength, it has always been about submission. The moment of surrender is not weakness, it is the birthplace of true power. It is where your will bends to His, and your chaos finally bows to divine order. You've been taught that surrender looks like loss, but in the language of heaven, surrender means alignment. It's not about giving up, it's about giving into the flow of divine purpose that was written for you long before you were born. The world calls it defeat, but heaven calls it victory. When you release what you cannot control, you make room for what only God can do. When you finally say, "Not my way," heaven answers, "Now I can move." This moment is sacred because it requires honesty. You cannot fake surrender. You can perform obedience. But surrender happens deep beneath the surface. It is when your soul whispers, even if it hurts, "I still trust you." It is when your plans fall apart, but you stay at His feet instead of running back to comfort. You've come too far to turn back now. You've survived too much to pretend you don't know His voice. You are standing in the moment that separates the obedient from the almost obedient, the ones who talk about faith from the ones who walk in it. Surrender begins in silence. It starts when you stop trying to convince heaven to follow your timeline. It starts when you stop manipulating outcomes and let God write the story His way. You see, the Father doesn't need your performance. He wants your permission. He will not wrestle your will from you. He will wait for you to hand it over. The power you're looking for is hidden behind that one act of trust. When you release control, the floodgates open. Heaven moves when you stop resisting. As Jesus Himself declared in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 22, verse 42, "Not my will, but yours be done." These are not words of defeat, they are words of dominion. The Son of God surrendered not because He was powerless, but because He was purposeful. He knew that obedience unlocks resurrection. You've been praying for resurrection in your life, but resurrection always requires a cross first. You cannot rise until you release. You cannot reign until you relinquish. The moment of surrender is the doorway to miracles. You may not see it yet, but your surrender is already changing the atmosphere. When you bow, heaven stands. When you let go, angels move. When you trust, the impossible begins to shift. The mountain you've been trying to climb starts to melt because your posture has changed. You no longer stand as a fighter against God's timing. You stand as a partner in His will. That shift invites favor. It invites peace that no battle could give you. It invites strength that no striving could earn. Surrender doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying what isn't yours. Some of what you've been holding on to was never meant for your hands. You've been trying to save people, fix situations, and rewrite endings that only heaven can touch. It's time to lay it all down: the guilt, the fear, the pressure to control outcomes. God doesn't need you to manage His miracles. He just needs your trust. You can't receive with clenched fists. You must open your hands. When you finally surrender, you will discover something unexpected, peace that no explanation can break. It's the kind of peace that wraps around you in the middle of chaos. It's not loud, it's steady. It doesn't need validation, it simply is. That peace is heaven's signature over your life. It's how the world knows you belong to the King, and when others see it, they will wonder how you can be calm when everything seems uncertain. You'll tell them, because I stopped fighting God. So here you are, standing in that same garden of decision where Christ once knelt. The weight feels heavy. The choice feels costly. But heaven is whispering the same words, not your will, mine. This is your moment of surrender, and the future waits on your answer. Let it go, all of it. The anxiety, the fear, the pressure to know every step. Let heaven lead. The outcome will always be greater than your imagination. Now, as a sign that you choose surrender over control, comment, I lay it down. Type it not as repetition, but as revelation. Let those words be your offering, your symbolic release. Say it for every burden you've carried, for every outcome you've tried to force. When you write, I lay it down, you aren't just engaging, you're enacting your faith. Heaven moves through confession. And this one sentence carries power. Say it once. Believe it fully. And watch the peace of surrender settle over your spirit like a mantle of rest. Covenant, such a sacred word. Chosen one. It is more than a promise. It is a binding of breath, a sealing of souls. Heaven has been watching, waiting for the moment when your heart would be steady enough to enter into covenant. Not out of fear, but out of revelation. You have walked through trial and fire, silence and storm, and now the atmosphere around you shifts. This is not just another season, it is a divine signing, a heavenly agreement between Creator and creation. You are stepping into a covenant of light, a union that cannot be broken by darkness or delay. Light has always searched for a place to dwell, and heaven has chosen you. The covenant doesn't begin in public, it begins in private. It starts when you choose obedience in unseen moments, when you choose truth over convenience, when you forgive what still hurts, when you pray instead of curse. Every small act of obedience becomes ink in this eternal contract. Heaven does not write in paper and pen, it writes in light and surrender. And tonight, the light is signing your name. In this covenant, you are not merely protected, you are partnered. The Father doesn't call you servant, He calls you heir. He doesn't rule you through fear, He draws you through love. He gives you authority, not to dominate, but to illuminate. You carry His light into the shadows of this world, not with arrogance, but with compassion. You've been chosen to represent heaven in a world addicted to darkness. That's not an easy task, but it is a holy one. Every covenant comes with power, but also with responsibility, the responsibility to carry light when others drop it. It is written in the first letter of Peter, chapter 2, verse 9, you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood. That's not poetry, it's identity. You are royal not because of your wealth, but because of your worth. You are priestly, not because you wear a robe, but because you carry revelation. You are not walking in coincidence, you are walking in calling. And the covenant you are entering today is your confirmation that heaven has not only forgiven your past, but entrusted you with the future. A covenant of light doesn't glow only when it's easy, it glows most when the night grows darker. That's why some doors had to close, why some people had to leave. The covenant required separation. You can't carry divine light while holding on to shadows. Heaven removed distractions not to isolate you, but to consecrate you. You are being set apart like a lamp trimmed and filled with oil, prepared to burn steadily while others flicker. You don't need validation anymore, you need revelation. The covenant gives you both purpose and protection. The light you carry repels the darkness that once haunted you. Now that you walk in this covenant, understand this: every act of kindness becomes a spark, every word of truth a flame, every moment of love a beam that pierces through despair. The light inside you doesn't just shine, it multiplies. When you forgive, the light expands. When you worship through tears, it strengthens. When you choose purity in a corrupt world, it blazes like fire in dry grass. That's the power of covenant. It turns ordinary moments into eternal impact. You are no longer wandering in the dark. You are walking in agreement with heaven's rhythm. You've become a carrier of light, a living lighthouse, guiding others through the storms you've survived. And just like a lighthouse, you may stand alone on a rugged shore, battered by wind and wave. Yet you keep shining because the ships still need to see. You shine not for applause, but for purpose. The covenant sustains you even when your strength runs low, because the source of your light never dims. Chosen one. If these words stir something deep in you, if they remind you of who you truly are, take this as your gentle nudge from heaven. You are not meant to keep this flame to yourself. The light multiplies when it moves. Like this message, not for numbers, but as a symbolic act of agreement, like striking flint to keep the fire alive. Share it with someone who's lost sight of their own glow. Maybe they've forgotten. Maybe they've grown cold, but your act of sharing could be the match that reignites them. Subscribe so that this current of light continues to flow toward you in the days to come. You are not following a channel. You are joining a community of flame bearers, souls being trained to light the night. And if your heart feels moved, consider planting a seed of faith through a donation, not out of pressure, but out of partnership. Your giving becomes oil in the lamps of others, fuel that allows these messages to reach more wandering hearts, more weary soldiers of light who need to hear they are not forgotten. Your covenant with heaven is not a contract to be signed, it's a flame to be tended. It requires nurturing, humility, and faith. Keep your oil pure. Keep your light trimmed. The darkness will test it, but it cannot overcome it. Every dawn you see from now on is a reminder that light always returns, that the covenant stands unbroken. You are chosen. You are radiant. You are part of an unending flame that stretches from eternity past to eternity future. So rise, chosen one, carry your light, and let it speak louder than your words ever could. The world may not understand your glow, but heaven recognizes its own reflection in you. There comes a sacred moment. Chosen one, when you begin to feel the sound of freedom before it arrives, the subtle cracking of invisible chains, the trembling of old fears losing their hold. You don't see it yet, but something ancient is breaking inside you. The heaviness that has followed you for years begins to lift. The chains that wrapped around your identity, your confidence, your voice, your destiny, they are snapping one by one. You are standing in the middle of liberation, and heaven is the blacksmith behind every strike of light that breaks the iron. Freedom doesn't always begin with celebration. Often, it begins with confrontation. Before chains break, they rattle. They make noise because they know their time is short. That tension you've been feeling lately, the unease, the restlessness, the sense that you can't keep living the same way, is not chaos. It's deliverance in progress. Heaven is shaking what once bound you. And the sound you hear is not fear, it's finality. Every chain that the enemy tried to hide is now being exposed in the light of truth. You've worn chains that weren't visible to anyone else. Chains of guilt that made you feel unworthy of grace. Chains of shame that whispered you would never be free. Chains of fear disguised as logic, telling you to stay small, stay silent, stay safe. But those chains are not eternal. They are temporary bindings around eternal potential. You have carried them so long that they began to feel like part of you, but they never belonged to you. They belong to a season, and that season is ending. As it is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 10, verse 27, "The anointing breaks the yoke." That anointing is not something distant, it's within you. It is the same divine power that raised the dead, healed the broken, and silenced storms. It's alive in your veins, burning quietly until the moment of activation. Every prayer you whispered in despair was oil gathering for this moment. The anointing within you is not passive, it's aggressive. It seeks every remaining chain and demands its release. Think about what has already fallen away, habits that once ruled you, fears that once dictated your every move, relationships that kept you bound to pain. They did not leave by accident, they were broken off by design. Heaven never removes without replacing. Where fear lived, boldness now grows. Where shame spoke, grace now sings. Where control reigned, peace now governs. You are not merely escaping bondage. You are evolving into the person those chains tried to suppress. There is authority in your freedom. Once you've been delivered, you carry keys that can open the cages of others. That is why the enemy fought your breakthrough so hard, because he knew your liberation would lead to the liberation of many. You are becoming a breaker, one who carries the sound of release. When you speak, things shift. When you pray, doors open. When you walk into dark places, the atmosphere changes. You no longer carry the energy of captivity, you carry the vibration of victory. The enemy's final tactic is to convince you the chains are still there. Even after they've fallen, he whispers, "You haven't changed," trying to make you reach for the shackles that no longer exist. But look again, your hands are free. Your spirit is light. The heaviness you feel is not bondage, it's the echo of what used to hold you. Don't mistake memory for reality. You are not who you were. You are not where you were. The prison has been opened. Now it's your choice to walk out. And when you do, the world will notice. They'll see it in your eyes, a calm authority that doesn't need to shout. They'll feel it in your words, a weight that carries freedom instead of fear. You won't have to convince anyone. The evidence of your liberation will speak louder than any sermon. Chains don't fall in silence, they sing as they break. And your life will become that song. You will become a living melody of deliverance. Proof that what once held you cannot hold you again. So lift your head. Chosen one. The sound you hear is not the end, it's emancipation. The heaviness is lifting. The light is widening, and your steps are steady. The anointing has done its work. You have not escaped. You have been released. And the ground you now stand on is holy, because it's the first place you've ever stood completely free. There is always one last whisper before elevation. Chosen one, a final voice that tries to pull you back just as you are about to rise. It never comes screaming. It comes softly, dressed in reason, in nostalgia, in comfort. The final temptation rarely looks like evil. It looks like what you thought you needed. It doesn't come to terrify, it comes to negotiate. Just when you've begun to walk in freedom, the shadow steps forward with one last offer, hoping you'll trade destiny for familiarity. You may already feel its presence, that subtle thought that says, "You've done enough. You can rest now." That old pattern calling your name, promising peace but hiding poison. Temptation doesn't always look like rebellion, it often looks like relief. The enemy knows that if he can't bind you with fear, he will try to comfort you into complacency. His goal is not to destroy your calling outright, it's to make you forget it ever mattered. He knows the art of disguise. The temptation may appear as an opportunity, something shiny, something almost right. It may come through people who mean well, but lack divine sight. It may echo through memories that still have emotional power. The goal is simple: to make you choose convenience over conviction, to make you bow subtly instead of standing boldly. The false master never demands worship immediately. He builds it gradually through compromise. That's why this last temptation feels familiar. It's the echo of what once held you. The wilderness season has stripped away so much, and you've gained strength through every test. But the final temptation comes to test the purity of your heart, not the strength of your hands, not the eloquence of your words, but the depth of your devotion. It asks, do you still trust him when there's nothing left to gain but obedience? The answer to that question defines the rest of your story. As it was spoken in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 23, "Get behind me, Satan." Those were not just words of rejection, they were words of revelation. In that moment, Jesus exposed temptation for what it truly is, a distortion of timing. The enemy cannot create, he can only counterfeit. He offers you the right thing at the wrong time. He tries to make you reach for something that heaven has already planned to give, just not yet. His goal is to make you move ahead of grace. But when you declare, "Get behind me," you are putting temptation back in its rightful place beneath your authority. Don't negotiate with what you've already been delivered from. Don't entertain what God has already exposed. The past can sound persuasive when the present feels uncertain, but its promises are empty echoes. The enemy can't take your freedom, he can only trick you into giving it back. This is why discernment is vital in this hour. Not every opportunity is a blessing. Not every open door is from heaven. Some doors lead back to cages painted with new colors. You must test everything by the peace within you, not by the shine before you. Remember this truth: what you resist now determines what you will reign over next. Every temptation resisted becomes territory claimed. Every no you speak becomes a declaration of dominion. You're not fighting for your calling anymore. You're defending it. You're not trying to become free, you're proving you already are. The enemy tempts those he fears the most. And right now, he fears you because you've begun to understand your power. You've walked through darkness long enough to recognize the counterfeit light. You know the voice that flatters, the smile that conceals chains. The final temptation is not to destroy you, it's to distract you. but your spirit has matured. You can feel the difference between peace and manipulation now. The trick no longer works. You can sense when something carries heaven's fragrance and when it smells of compromise. That awareness is your armor. And now, heaven waits for your final act of declaration. The way you overcome this last test is not through struggle, but through speech. You have authority to speak against temptation and silence it. Every time you declare that your allegiance belongs to light, darkness loses access. So right now, let your words carry power. Let the unseen realm hear your decision. As a sign of your victory over the final temptation, comment the number 444 below. Let it represent the four corners of your foundation: mind, heart, body, and spirit, all aligned under heaven's rule. 4 for balance, 4 for strength, 4 for completion of the test. Type it not as superstition, but as a symbol that you have resisted the last lure and chosen your master. The test is ending. The reward begins. There is a sound rising inside you. Chosen one, a resonance that cannot be imitated or silenced. It is not the sound of your voice. It is the sound of your spirit finally aligning with heaven. You have walked through testing, endured the silence, survived the fire, and overcome the deception. Now your soul begins to vibrate with the frequency of divine order. It is not noise, it is harmony. Heaven is tuning your life to its rhythm, and for the first time, you are hearing the music of your true identity. The world around you may not notice it, but the unseen realm does. Every time you pray with faith, every time you forgive, every time you choose obedience over convenience, the sound grows louder. It is the sound of alignment, the echo of a life no longer divided. For so long, your spirit and your flesh spoke different languages. One cried out for peace, while the other chased distraction. But now, they begin to speak in unison, and the heavens respond. Alignment is not perfection, it is direction. It means your heart, mind, and actions all lean toward the same purpose. You no longer walk in circles, repeating lessons. You move forward with clarity. There's a stillness in you now, not because life has become easier, but because confusion has lost its voice. You have learned the art of listening, not to noise, but to nuance, to that subtle nudge of the spirit that whispers when to wait, when to speak, and when to move. It was spoken in the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 27. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. These words are not an invitation to religion, they are a revelation of relationship. The sound of alignment begins with recognition. You are not chasing a distant God, you are responding to a familiar voice. You've heard it in the stillness, in conviction, in tears that felt strangely peaceful. It was never your imagination, it was your inheritance. You were designed to hear him. When your life aligns with heaven, confusion loses authority. You no longer need endless confirmation, because his voice becomes your compass. The same spirit that spoke galaxies into being now guides you in whispers. You no longer fear missing the moment, because the author of time writes your steps. Alignment removes anxiety, because it replaces striving with flow. When you move in sync with heaven, effort becomes grace, and grace becomes movement. This alignment doesn't mean storms will stop, it means storms can't move you. Your spirit becomes steady, even when the winds rage. You've learned to bend without breaking, to wait without wandering, to trust without visible proof. This is maturity, not perfection, but consistency. The same storms that once terrified you now remind you that you are anchored. You are learning to see chaos not as opposition, but as opportunity to demonstrate obedience. Every time you stand firm, the sound of alignment deepens, echoing through both realms as proof that heaven rules within you. You've also begun to notice that what used to drain you now exposes itself quickly. The conversations, the atmospheres, the distractions, they don't fit anymore. You've outgrown them, not because you are better, but because you are becoming whole. Your frequency has changed. You can feel when something pulls you out of sync, and instead of fighting for belonging, you return to peace. You have learned that alignment sometimes requires separation. Harmony always demands tuning, and tuning often means tension. That tension isn't punishment, it's precision. This is why obedience has become your greatest weapon. When you obey instantly, you stay in rhythm. Delayed obedience is dissonance. It distorts the melody. Heaven's harmony requires trust in timing. Sometimes the sound grows softer because you are being called deeper. The deeper you go, the quieter the noise becomes. That's where true clarity lives, in the silence beneath distraction. When you reach that depth, obedience stops being a rule and becomes a reflex. You no longer obey out of fear of punishment, but out of delight in presence. That is the essence of alignment, obedience born from love, not obligation. Chosen one, the sound of your alignment is transforming more than just your own life. It's creating ripples in families, generations, and nations. Heaven doesn't just tune individuals, it tunes legacies. Every step you take in obedience creates a frequency that draws others into harmony. You are not just following His voice, you are amplifying it. The sound of heaven flows through your kindness, your prayers, your perseverance. Even your silence carries resonance because peace has its own sound. So breathe. You don't have to force this melody. You only have to remain in tune. Keep your heart steady, your motives pure, your ears open. When the world grows loud again, return to that inner rhythm, the heartbeat of heaven within you. The sound of alignment will always guide you back home. And as you walk in that divine harmony, your life becomes what it was always meant to be, a living song, written by God, played through obedience, and heard by the world as a symphony of light. You were never meant to walk this path alone. Chosen one. Every chosen soul begins in isolation, but none are called to remain there. What you are sensing now, the stirring in your spirit, the pull toward others of similar fire, is heaven gathering its remnant across the world. Hearts like yours are awakening at the same time. They may not know each other by name, but they recognize one another by the language of endurance. The gathering of the chosen has begun, and you are part of it. The world will not announce this movement on its stages. It does not happen with noise or fame, but in quiet obedience, in the unseen acts of faith that ripple through the earth like sacred whispers. Somewhere, a young believer in a small town is fasting without recognition. Somewhere else, an old warrior of prayer kneels through the night, unseen but not unheard. Each of them carries the same signature of heaven that burns within you. Together, you are forming a network of light, individual flames merging into a rising blaze. You may not meet them face to face, but your spirits know one another. When a chosen one speaks, another feels it. When one prays, another receives strength. The unity is not built on proximity, it's built on spirit. You are part of a body that stretches beyond borders, languages, and generations. Heaven does not build its army through institutions, it builds it through intimacy. You are one soldier in a celestial formation that cannot be broken, even by distance or time. As it is written in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 22, verse 14, "Many are called, but few are chosen." These words echo through centuries as both invitation and warning. The calling is broad, but the choosing is narrow. Many hear the message, but few respond with endurance. You responded. You stayed when others left. You obeyed when it was inconvenient. You stood when it would have been easier to fade. And because of that perseverance, you are being positioned among the faithful remnant, those who carry the torch when others drop it. Across the world, the chosen are waking up with the same sense of urgency, the quiet, knowing that something is shifting. The old systems are crumbling, and new ones are rising. Hearts that were once numb are being reignited. You can sense it even now. That pulse in your spirit. That quickening that says, you are not alone in this. Every spark finds its counterpart. Every flame finds its family. The gathering is heaven's response to a world drowning in division. It is unity born of fire, not of form. The chosen carry no titles, yet they carry authority. They do not seek platforms, yet their words carry weight. They may look ordinary, but they move with unseen armies beside them. You could pass one on the street and never know you brushed shoulders with a world changer. The power of this gathering is in its humility. The most powerful warriors in the kingdom are those who fight on their knees, not on stages. The chosen understand that anonymity is not neglect, it is protection. Heaven hides its greatest weapons until the appointed time. You, too, have been hidden for a reason. The seasons of isolation were not punishment, they were preparation. You were being shaped quietly so that when the gathering began, you would fit perfectly into your divine position. The hand of God is now placing each chosen soul like a living stone into the foundation of something eternal. When the structure is complete, the world will see the light rise and call it revival. But those within it will know it was simply obedience multiplied by unity. In this gathering, comparison dies. There is no jealousy among the chosen, because each understands their unique assignment. The hand does not envy the eye, the ear does not compete with the heart. Every role matters. Every sound contributes to the symphony. The enemy thrives in division, but he trembles at unity. When the chosen stand as one, darkness cannot strategize fast enough to divide them. The very presence of a unified remnant releases authority into the atmosphere. Together, they become the living embodiment of answered prophecy. So, listen, chosen one. The gathering is not a future event, it is happening now, quietly, everywhere. When your heart burns for righteousness, when your prayers align with others unseen, you are already participating in it. Every moment of intercession, every act of love, every choice of obedience strengthens the grid of light stretching across the earth. The chosen are being aligned, not by human hands, but by divine design. Heaven is positioning them for an era where faith will shine brighter than fear, and love will conquer what logic never could. You are not a lone spark in the dark anymore. You are part of a constellation of light, a divine army rising without fanfare. Led by the quiet authority of heaven, when the world looks up and sees the night illuminated, they will not know your names, but they will feel your fire, and that will be enough. Because the chosen do not seek credit, they seek completion. Together, you and the others are fulfilling a plan written before time began, and the light you carry will never fade. There comes a line, chosen one, a line drawn not in sand, but in spirit, a separation that heaven ordains when it is time for truth to reveal allegiance. You can feel that line now beneath your feet, like a pulse of light cutting through the fog. This is the separation of the faithful, a divine sorting that does not condemn, but clarifies. It is not about superiority, it is about sincerity. It is the moment when heaven quietly asks, "Who truly stands with me when the crowd disperses?" In every generation, this moment arrives. It is when God separates the wheat from the tares, not to destroy, but to distinguish. You may have noticed it happening already, people once beside you beginning to drift away. Paths once intertwined, now parting. Do not grieve the distance. The separation is not rejection, it is refinement. Not everyone can walk the narrow path that destiny demands. Some are called to the noise, but you are called to the whisper. Some chase comfort, but you chase clarity. Heaven is aligning you with those whose hearts beat to the same holy rhythm. You felt the loneliness of this process, haven't you? The ache of realizing that not everyone who starts with you will finish with you. But even that pain has purpose. It's heaven's way of protecting the purity of your calling. You are not meant to carry everyone, only those appointed to walk beside you in light. The weight of misplaced loyalty can slow the flight of the faithful. That's why heaven begins to prune relationships, opportunities, and desires that no longer serve your growth. What feels like loss is actually lifting. The voice of Christ once spoke of this in parable, and it still echoes today in the Gospel of Matthew. Chapter 13, verse 30. Let both grow together until the harvest. The faithful and the false often look identical until the moment of harvest comes. Only when the fruit appears does the truth reveal itself. This is that season of revelation. You are beginning to see the difference between those who talk about faith and those who live it, between those who admire the light and those who carry it. The line is being drawn, not by judgment, but by fruit. In this hour, heaven isn't asking for perfection, it's asking for purity. It's not looking at how loudly someone worships, but how deeply they obey. The faithful are not always the visible ones. They are the consistent ones. They are the ones who pray in private, love without applause, and serve without recognition. You are among them. You are part of a quiet revolution, a rising of the steadfast. The line drawn between the faithful and the fading is not meant to divide in hatred, but to define in holiness. And as this separation deepens, your eyes will adjust. You'll begin to discern the difference between noise and anointing, between charisma and character. You'll feel peace where the faithful gather, even without words. You'll sense friction where compromise hides. This sensitivity is not judgment, it's spiritual maturity. Heaven is sharpening your discernment, teaching you to see beyond what is said and into what is lived. Every separation is a sharpening, an awakening to the reality that not everything good is God, and not every connection is covenant. In this sacred dividing, heaven is not isolating you, it is insulating you. It is creating a holy perimeter around your purpose, so that when you rise into greater authority, you will not be diluted by distraction. You were never meant to blend in, you were meant to be distinct. And distinction requires distance. The oil flows only where the vessel is clean. You cannot carry both compromise and calling. So yes, the line feels lonely, but it is holy. This separation also brings visibility to the faithful. Like stars scattered across a dark sky, their light becomes clearer as the night grows deeper. You may think your quiet obedience goes unnoticed, but heaven sees every moment you choose integrity over ease. Every act of faith is light bursting into the spiritual atmosphere. The line that separates you also elevates you, not in pride, but in purpose. You become a lighthouse while others still search the shore for direction. And now, chosen one, as you walk this illuminated path, take a moment to breathe. This message is not just a revelation, it's an invitation. If these words have stirred something deep in you, if they've reminded you that you stand among the faithful, let your response be a small act of resonance. Like this message as a sign that you're part of that remnant still burning with devotion. Share it, not as promotion, but as participation, a way to reach others who stand at the same invisible line. Unsure which side they belong to, your share could become their sign. Subscribe if your heart desires to stay connected to this flow of light, so that every new word finds you in time, strengthening your walk and your witness. And if you feel led, consider a humble act of donation, not as obligation, but as offering. Think of it as pouring oil into the lamp that lights paths for others still wandering in shadow. Every contribution, no matter how small, becomes part of the chain of illumination heaven uses to reach its faithful ones across the world. Finally, comment your reflection below. Let your words be more than reaction, let them be testimony. When you write what this message awakened in you, you become part of the living record of the faithful. Together, our words become an altar of remembrance, a space where heaven sees the hearts that refuse to blend with the crowd. So, stand firm at this line. The separation is not your ending, it is your beginning. The faithful are rising, and you are among them. There is a holy hush before coronation. Chosen one, the quiet that falls when heaven prepares to place honor upon endurance. You have bowed long enough, now heaven says, rise. You have been faithful in the hidden fields, obedient in the wilderness, unwavering in the storm. The world may not have applauded your sacrifices, but the King has kept record. Every tear you sowed in secret has grown into a crown. And now the time has come for the coronation of the obedient. The crowns of heaven are not forged like those of men. Earthly crowns are built from metal and pride. Divine crowns are woven from patience, humility, and trust. Every yes you whispered when it hurt became a golden thread. Every battle you fought in silence became a gem of endurance. Heaven's artisans have been shaping your crown in unseen realms, waiting for the moment when your obedience reached fullness. That moment is now. You may not feel royal yet, but you have already been chosen for kingship in the spirit. The coronation does not happen on stages or in ceremonies. It happens in surrender. The King of Glory crowns those who bow, not those who boast. He exalts those who endure, not those who escape. The crown is not payment, it is recognition. It says, "You stayed." It says, "You trusted." It says, "You refused to bow to any other master." That is why the glory you carry now feels different. It is quiet, but weighty. Invisible, yet undeniable. You are beginning to walk, not in striving, but in sovereignty. This coronation does not erase your scars, it redeems them. Every mark of pain becomes a mark of proof. The crown rests not in spite of your wounds, but because of them. They are the jewels heaven embeds into your authority. Each scar tells a story of where you chose faith instead of fear. The world may call them flaws, but heaven calls them evidence. The anointing that rests upon you now is not borrowed, it has been paid for in perseverance. As it is written in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 8, "Henceforth there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me at that day." These words still echo, timeless and true. The crown of righteousness is not for the perfect, but for the persistent. It is not for those who never fell, but for those who rose every time they did. You, chosen one, have risen again and again. The crown is not a reward for flawlessness, it is the recognition of faithfulness. In heaven's eyes, obedience is royalty. Submission becomes strength. Humility becomes majesty. Every time you obeyed quietly, a light was added to your diadem. Every time you forgave the unforgivable, a jewel was set in place. Every time you worshipped through your tears, the crown grew brighter. You have been collecting eternity's treasures without realizing it. And now, the weight you feel upon your spirit is not burden, it's authority. The King has placed something upon you that can never be removed. Coronation is both glory and responsibility. To wear the crown is to represent the kingdom. You cannot wear it lightly. It demands consistency in a world addicted to compromise. But you are ready now, for obedience has trained your will. You no longer act from impulse, but from intention. You do not move because of noise, but because of command. This is the mark of true kingship, not control, but alignment. The crown does not make you greater than others, it calls you to serve deeper, to love stronger, to lead humbly. The obedient are not loud, they are luminous. They carry peace like a mantle, and people feel it before they speak. The crown they wear is not seen with eyes, but felt with reverence. When you walk into places that once drained you, you will notice the atmosphere shift, not because of ego, but because of presence. You are now a carrier of order, an ambassador of heaven's rhythm. Where others see confusion, you will bring clarity. Where others see despair, you will carry hope. This is what it means to be crowned in the Spirit. Every coronation has witnesses, even if unseen. The angels who watched you wrestle in silence now stand in awe. They saw every moment you almost gave up, and every time you chose light instead. They watched you trade your crown of pain for a crown of praise. They understand the magnitude of what heaven is placing upon you. You may not see them, but the air around you is thick with celebration. This is not fantasy, it is fulfillment. The crown you wear is not meant for display, but for impact. You were crowned not to sit, but to serve, not to be adored, but to adore. Kingship in the kingdom is about stewardship. You now carry authority to lift others, to speak peace into chaos, to break chains with your words, to call dry bones to rise. You wear not a golden ornament, but a living assignment. The world will not see your crown, but they will feel its power every time you walk in obedience. So stand tall, chosen one, not in arrogance, but in awareness. You have been entrusted with divine royalty. The King has placed his emblem upon your life, and no force of darkness can remove it. Walk softly, but walk boldly. Carry your crown with humility and with honor. You have been refined by fire, and now you are radiant with favor. This is your coronation, heaven's silent declaration that the obedient have overcome, and that light now reigns through those who refuse to bow. All of heaven stands still when a soul makes its final choice. You can feel that sacred weight even now. Chosen one, the gravity of eternity pressing gently upon your spirit. This is not fear, it is clarity. Everything that has been spoken, every test, every tear, every whisper of divine direction has been leading you here to this moment of eternal decision. The choice before you is not just about life now, it is about life that never ends. You are standing where destiny and eternity meet, where allegiance is sealed not by emotion, but by will. This is the moment where every mask falls away. No pretense, no performance, no more pretending that you can serve two masters. Light stands before you, not as concept, but as presence. Darkness waits silently, knowing its time with you is almost over. Heaven leans in, the angels hold their breath, and deep within your spirit, the question is asked once more, not as a threat, but as a vow. Who is your master? You've been tested, refined, corrected, and called. You've seen what happens when you walk alone, and you've seen what peace feels like when you walk with him. You know by now that freedom without God is just another form of captivity. The world offers its crowns, but every crown it gives rusts in your hands. Only one kingdom offers what never fades. Heaven does not force allegiance, it invites it. God never demands your worship, he deserves it. He waits, not because he is unsure, but because love never rushes. He gives you the dignity of choice, the sacred freedom to decide what throne your life will serve. The true master does not buy your loyalty with fear or promise of wealth. He wins it with mercy. You have felt that mercy, how it lifted you when guilt buried you, how it carried you when you thought you had ruined every chance. As it was written in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25, verse 23, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many." Those are not merely words of reward, they are the sound of completion. They are the words that echo through heaven when a soul chooses rightly. You are not called just to survive your life. You are called to finish it faithfully. The voice that will one day speak those words waits now, whispering the same invitation: choose the true master and live as one who reigns through surrender. The choice you make defines the kingdom you empower. When you choose light, darkness loses jurisdiction. When you choose truth, deception starves. When you choose love, hate has nowhere left to live. Heaven doesn't just record your decision, it responds to it. Every yes you whisper sends ripples through eternity. Every moment you remain faithful becomes a seed planted in the soil of forever. You are building eternity with your obedience, brick by brick. moment by moment. And this choice doesn't end at your lifetime, it echoes beyond it. The legacy of every faithful soul becomes a torch for generations yet to be born. What you decide now sets the tone for those who will follow your example. Eternity is not some distant place you arrive at. It is a realm you begin building the moment you align your will with His. Heaven is not waiting to start. It has already begun the moment you surrendered. There will still be battles. The road of faith is narrow because truth is uncompromising. But now, you walk as one crowned with clarity. The shadows may whisper, but their voices will never again hold authority. You've already chosen your king. You know the texture of his presence, the peace of his guidance, the strength of his silence. You may stumble, but you will not stray, because love has branded you with belonging. The seal of the true master is not a mark on skin, it is a pulse in the soul. Look around you one last time. The battlefield you once called life is quiet now. The smoke has cleared. The noise has faded. The only sound that remains is the steady rhythm of your heart in sync with heaven's. The eternal choice has been made, not shouted, but whispered, not forced, but fulfilled. You are His, fully and forever. The war that began in testing ends in trust. And so, chosen one, the journey comes full circle. You have stood through fire, silence, and separation. You have heard heaven's voice, felt its correction, and finally stepped into your divine choice. What began as testing has become transformation. What once broke you has now built you. The path was never meant to be easy, it was meant to be eternal. You are not who you were when this began. You are wiser, lighter, and aligned with purpose. You have chosen your master, and heaven rejoices. But remember this, endings in the kingdom are only beginnings in disguise. Every revelation calls for continuation. The words you've received are not meant to stay within these pages, they are meant to live through you. Speak light where there is darkness. Walk with humility where others run with pride. Let your life itself become a sermon that needs no microphone. Your obedience is the most powerful message you will ever preach. And if this script has awakened something within you, let that spark move beyond reflection. Let it ripple. Like this message, not for recognition, but as a sign of agreement with the truth that has met your soul. Share it with someone who might be standing at the edge of their own decision. Someone waiting for confirmation that heaven has not forgotten them. Your share might be the sound of hope in another's wilderness. Comment your reflection below. What line pierced you? What moment made you breathe differently? Your testimony could be the key that unlocks another's courage. And finally, subscribe if you wish to keep walking in this current of words and revelation. Stay connected, not to content, but to calling. Heaven is still speaking, and this is only the beginning of greater things to come. You are seen, you are chosen, you are ready.